to the $100 MBA Show, your one-stop shop for business building goodness with our daily 10-minute business lessons for the real world. I'm your host, your coach, your teacher, Omar Zenhom. I'm also the co-founder of the $100 MBA, a complete business training and community online. You can check out some of our freebies, free courses, our free guides over at 100mba.net. And today's episode is a guest teacher episode. Today we have Erik Kerr from The Draw Shop, and he's going to be teaching you how to ensure your value is communicated properly to your audience. Sometimes we don't communicate properly to our audience, and therefore our value is not communicated properly. When you're building a business, sometimes you're in the midst of it. You don't realize you need to communicate your business to people that don't know anything about it in a very simple format. And that's what Erik's going to be talking about today. Erik and his team at The Draw Shop are the leaders when it comes to this. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Erik and then pass the mic to him. We got a lot to cover today, so let's get down to business. Today's episode of the $100 MBA Show is sponsored by Sidekick by HubSpot. Sidekick provides seamless, integrated email tools for Gmail, Apple Mail, and Outlook. It's like getting a serious upgrade to your existing email. With Sidekick, you could receive live notifications when somebody opens and clicks on your emails, so you can have powerful contact insights right in your inbox. Go to getsidekick.com/MBA to get your first month of Sidekick for free. So give it a try and see how Sidekick can improve your experience with your inbox. Go to getsidekick.com/MBA. Erik Kerr is the co-founder of The Draw Shop. And if you're not familiar with The Draw Shop, you should be. The Draw Shop specializes in powerful, action-oriented whiteboard animation videos and sales processes. They are the leaders in this industry. They've done videos for LinkedIn, Uber, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, Arianna Huffington, the government of Mongolia, and a whole lot more. And their whole job with these whiteboard videos is to communicate your value in a very concise and simple way to your audience. They want to make sure by the end of the video, your audience completely gets what you do and the value you convey. And today, Erik's going to be talking about how you can do the same thing with everything you do in your business, how you can communicate your value to your audience clearly. I absolutely love what Erik is doing at The Draw Shop. And in fact, we're creating a video for Webinar Ninjas, actually a video for our webinars to help people know more about what we do on our webinars. And I'll be sharing my experience with working with them later on. But for now, I want to pass it on to Erik, who's going to teach you this dynamite lesson. Take it away, Erik.
Greetings, $100 MBA listeners. Today, we're going to learn how to make your business awesomeness impossible to misunderstand. And we're going to do that in 6 easy steps. David Ogilvy, known as the father of advertising, said, "I don't know the rules of grammar. If you're going to persuade people to do something or buy something, it seems to me you should use their language, the language they use every day, the language in which they think." Being impossible to misunderstand is a concept originated and defined by Michael Fishman, a brilliant marketing consultant. So what is the difference between being understood and being impossible to misunderstand? As Michael states, we want people to understand what we do as entrepreneurs. We want people to understand what we have and why it's wonderful and why it's worth it. We also want them to feel understood by us in a way in which we communicate to them. There's a huge difference in being understood and being impossible to misunderstand. The way to speak to somebody in such a way that they feel understood by you so that you're impossible to misunderstand and that you're speaking to their heart is very simply to speak the language that they speak and not speak in your language or your vocabulary. So, why is making your awesomeness impossible to misunderstand so important? The simple answer is, if you don't do it, your competitors will. If your competitors communicate on their products, services, and benefits awesomeness better than you, they're going to sell more than you and dominate every part of the sales process. And you're just going to be sitting around wondering what happened. So in short, they win, you lose. I know this because my partner and I, Summer Felix, have had a multi-million-dollar business helping people like Arianna Huffington, the chief executive chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt, Uber, Twitter, Bloomberg, all communicate their awesomeness with whiteboard video, making their message impossible to misunderstand. And to be completely frank, we have been left in the dust and know how frustrating that experience can be. One thing you should know about these 6 steps is that I took them out of what we call our creative process, which is what we take all of our clients through, including Arianna Huffington and Twitter and Uber and Google and so forth. Out of everything that they could say, what should they say to get the action that they want? In fact, if you go to thedrawshop.com/MBA, we actually have a downloadable guide for this podcast. Now, what I want to do is I want to use actually the $100 MBA show, this podcast, as a case study because this show has done tremendously well. In 2015, there are 250,000 podcasts. In 2014, the first year of this podcast, it was actually awarded iTunes Best of 2014 Podcast. So, do you think Omar is doing something right? I think he is. So I want to dive into these 6 steps and really peel back the onion a little bit on what Omar is doing and whether or not he is applying these 6 steps. Okay, so let's jump into step number 1. Step number 1 is an extremely important part, and here it is very simply. Your prospect is always asking one question. And here's the question that they're asking about you, about your service, about your product, about your podcast, about what you're wearing, about anything that you're trying to promote to them. Here's the question. Who cares? So if we look at this podcast, the $100 MBA show, the question is, did Omar get that question or did he answer that question correctly? Who cares? Now, the interesting part about this process and these 6 steps are, in order to get step 1 right, you have to get step 2 right. Step 2 is also a question. And the question is, what is the profile of your ideal client? In other words, who is asking the question in step 1? A mother who is worried about feeding her kids really healthy meals and asking who cares is very different from a business person who wants to be more successful at business by listening to this podcast. The prospects for the $100 MBA show are business professionals and business owners who want more help succeeding in business, but they don't have a lot of time. And how do I know this? Because Omar answers both questions in his summary statement for the podcast, and it reads as follows. The $100 MBA show is a new kind of podcast where you simply get better at business with our daily 10-minute business lessons for the real world. Awarded as an iTunes Best of 2014 podcast, these no-fluff 10-minute episodes are packed with only the pure business building training that you want. No backstories or promotions, just solid business lessons from the best in the game. In 4 sentences, Omar takes care of steps 1 and steps 2. Can you do the same thing with your product or service? This takes us to step 3, which builds upon steps 1 and 2. Step 3 is also a question, and here's the question. What are the top 5 concerns your prospect has about your service and product? What are they thinking? Can you get into their head? Okay, let's see how Omar did on this one. I know exactly what the top 5 concerns are for his prospects, and I know exactly what they are because he told us in those first 4 summary sentences again. So, Omar's doing really well. Is it any wonder that he won Top Podcast in 2014 from iTunes? Number 1, life is busy and I don't have a lot of time. Concern number 2, I want to grow my own business. Concern number 3, I want pure business building training because I don't have a lot of time. Number 4, I only want great, fresh, applicable content. And concern number 5, I am interested in a wide variety of business topics and making a difference in your marketplace. It doesn't happen by accident. It takes research. It takes thought. It takes searching online. It takes time trying to identify your audience, products and services that you might be interested in launching or that are competitors of yours. Once you have identified the ideal client, you can find out how to answer these questions. Go to Twitter, go to Facebook. These people are talking. These people are puking information all over the internet that you can use to talk to them in their language. They are telling you the words you need to use to make your message impossible to misunderstand. You don't have to guess. You can go and see what kind of questions they're asking, what they're complaining about, what they're excited about. I mean, the opportunity to just get a bullseye on your communications and the words that you choose to communicate to your target audience and your intended prospects has never, ever, ever in the history of the world been better and easier than it is right now. Steps 4 and 5 are, again, questions, but the purpose of these questions is really to get you into thinking about and caring about your prospect, because if they feel like you don't care, then they are not going to stick around. And if you really don't care, then you're not going to provide any kind of awesome content, product, or service. You're just going to be in it for the money, which isn't enough for people these days. They have too many options. Part of the reason why you're listening to this podcast, the $100 MBA Show, is because Omar puts everything he has into giving you absolutely what you want, awesome content without the fluff. Step 4 is answering this question: how will you solve the top 5 concerns from step 3 better than anyone else? And that gets you into the mechanics, the processes, the procedures of how you're actually going to fulfill on this. Now that you know what their concerns are, it's time to build something that is actually going to address those concerns and make them your raving fans, because when you do, you will continue to grow as a business and you will blow your competition out of the water. You will be given awards like this podcast has. You will get people referring your business. You will get repeat business. The business will take care of itself in many, many ways. Many of the top businesses that I know when they first started didn't spend any money on advertising. It was all word of mouth because they took a lot of time and a lot of care in answering step 4. Step 5 is also a question, and here's the question: how will your prospect's life be worse if they don't choose you? You have to really think about, okay, if they don't go with me and if I don't build a super awesome product, then they're going to go somewhere else. Okay, very short time left. Here's the last question, the last step. What is the action goal of the next call, the next podcast, the next web page, the next video? Every communication in business has to be driving towards an action. So there you have it. There are the 6 steps to being impossible to misunderstand. And again, the worksheet is free to download at thedrawshop.com/MBA. And I want to congratulate Omar and the $100 MBA Show for being so awesome.
Today's episode of the $100 MBA Show is sponsored by Single Grain. Our business is growing here at the $100 MBA and at Webinar Ninja, and one of the biggest challenges we're facing is hiring top talent. Actually, it's the number one problem all companies face, including big companies like Facebook, Google, and Apple. They're not so worried about sales and marketing. It's hiring that they're having challenges with. Why does hiring have to be so hard? It seems like every company has struggled to get this right at some point. That's why Erik from Single Grain created the A-Player Hiring Blueprint after he lost close to $1 million on one bad hire. Today he's giving away a free resource he called the 403 Rock Solid Interview Questions to help you find top talent. To get the resource, just text 403-BOOK to 33444. And the resource will automatically be emailed to you. It's 100% secure and your data will be protected. Once again, that's 403-BOOK to 33444. They'll send you the epic resource, but grab it now because it's only available for a limited time. What an awesome and clear and valuable lesson from Erik. Thanks, Erik, for that awesome guest lesson. Communicating your value is so important because you don't want to undersell yourself. You want to make sure that your value, your total value, is being communicated properly. And like Erik was saying, it takes some time to flesh out and make sure you're communicating your value properly. When I'm going through this whiteboard animated video with Erik's company, The Draw Shop, it's a very lengthy process because you want to make sure you're giving as much value and conveying as much value as possible. So we go through a creative brief, we script it, we storyboard it. It's a process, but it pays off because you make sure that you're not underselling yourself. So make sure no matter what you do on your sales page, on your website, in your sales videos, and maybe in just talking about what you do in person at an event or one-on-one with a client, make sure you take some of today's insights, some of the tips, and apply it to the way you communicate what you do. All right, guys, that wraps up today's lesson. Just a quick reminder, guys, we're past episode 300 here on the $100 MBA Show. So if you're on iTunes, iTunes only displays 300 episodes at a time. So the earlier episodes, like episodes 1 through 10, 20, 30, They're not going to be displaying as we publish new episodes. But you can still get these shows by subscribing to the show, and you can download them through the feed. So if you haven't subscribed to the $100 MBA Show, make sure you do so you can get these earlier episodes. If you're on your iPhone, just make sure you click on the subscribe button. If you're on Stitcher, same thing. All right, guys, I want to leave you with this. I say this often, but communicating is the mother of all skills. The better you know how to communicate what you offer, the better you're going to be able to be as a business person, as an entrepreneur. Because at the end of the day, sales is communication. So always try to refine your communication skills, especially when you're communicating what you do. And you can do this by maybe blogging regularly, getting your ideas out on the screen or on paper. You can journal. And you can also do this by starting a podcast or a video show on YouTube and practicing your verbal communication. Either way, make it a priority to hone in your communication skills. All right, guys, I hope that helps, and I hope to see you in tomorrow's episode. I'll see you then, guys. Take care.